Adam Roa, I feel so excited to have this opportunity to deepen even further with you. You and I have been dancing each other's fields for many years. We're always invited to speak at the same conferences, and yet we'd never really dropped into friendship, I feel like, until this trip.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you didn't like me.
Really? Is that real?
No.
Okay. No. I said I best eat bitch face sometimes.
No.
Sometimes people think I don't like him, and it's not true at all.
Yeah, no, we've oscillated and orbited the same circles for a while, and I'm really grateful that on this trip here in Estalia that we've gotten a chance to really drop in more.
Yeah, I feel like it did when they start on the dance floor.
Yeah, I think that I mean, when you can dance with someone, you figure out who they really are.
Yeah, you can like see their soul.
You know it. They can't hide the somatic aspects of themselves on the dance floor. You can tell when someone's closed off. You can tell when someone's disconnected from their body. You can tell when someone has walls up. Like the dance floor reveals all.
You said earlier when you're talking about us dancing, two peacocks dancing. What does that mean?
Well, I feel like there was just nonverbal communication, storytelling, playfulness, and I find that it's on my manifestation list for my partnership, my divine union. That incredible dance cage was on my list because it's that important to me. There's no worse feeling than being on a dance floor dancing with the person that you're with and looking over and seeing somebody going, I have way better dance chemistry with that person over there. You know that feeling? And then the whole time you're just like, it's okay over here, but that would be a great dance. And I think that for me, the dance can become storytelling with the body.
Yeah.
And so when you have someone else that can do that, there's like cheekiness and mischievousness and sexiness, and all of that's communicated non-verbally, and also can remove that like club aspect of guys dancing with girls to try and lead to sex affairs of predatory energy. And it's just actually, I'm with another human being who gets that we're going all in on the container of this dance. And yeah, so anyway, to be met like that on the dance floor with you was great.
Yeah, thank you for that. So, and also it's unusual, like, with someone who's a poet, like you're a professional poet, which is so rare that you have this linguistic ability that words are a medium and you're so in your body is such a beautiful combination.
Well, I appreciate that. That's an intentional, or maybe I didn't even realize it was intentional, but it's a byproduct of being incredibly disconnected from my body for so long and needing to intentionally heal and connect to my body as someone who experienced childhood sexual abuse. That was a repressed memory for 25 years. So it existed in my system. And as a result, I shut down the connection to my body without realizing that's what I was doing or what was happening. And then it was a long journey, and dance was a big part of reconnecting to my body.
Oh wow. And how old are you when the memory surfaced?
So it happened when I was 5, and it resurfaced at 30.
Wow. And so this is a great segue into the we're going to talk about, and is why isn't everyone using creativity as a tool for personal development? And it sounds like, I mean, dance is, I know poetry is your main medium, but dance is also a form of creativity. And so how did dance as creativity help in your healing, help in your personal development, help in the reclamation of the connection with your body?
Well, I think to understand dance in that, first, I want to make a distinction because I think there are a lot of people who never really actually dance.
Yeah, they're just like bopping.
Yeah, they're moving, they're trying to stay on rhythm, or they're trying to not look stupid, or they're just in their heads while they do it. But to me, dancing, really dancing, is that moment where you get out of your head and literally your body is given permission to just move. And our bodies have natural understanding of rhythm. And I think that anyone who has no rhythm, maybe there are some people that just they don't have that thing, like someone who's colorblind, but I think it's a very small amount of people. Most people, your body inherently understands rhythm and beat. And if you feel like you can't dance, it's because you're in your head.
Yeah.
And
Judging, editing, performing.
and so that distinction is important because when people think about dancing, I think a lot of them only have the experience of being in their head while they're on the dance floor. Whereas for me, there's moments, and a lot of them happen in medicine ceremonies where there's dancing where can I give this moment to my body? Can I open myself as a vessel for movement through like for the divine, for life force to move, use my body as a vessel in this moment. And even for me, and this is the same poetry writing or any form of creativity, it doesn't start that way. Meaning when I first start dancing, that beat comes on, I'm not immediately there. There's a warming up that happens. What the head? Yeah. And then there's suddenly, oh, I'm in there and the movements are happening without me thinking about them. I'm fully in flow. And so to do that requires a trust of the body. And the body is safe, that I can allow my body, my mind not to run the show for a moment. And so dance and really that understanding of dance was part of the, I don't need my mind to run the show. I can let my body's safe for me to inhabit fully.
Yeah, thank you for naming that so beautifully. And I imagine, I don't know if this is true, but that safety that you found by letting your body be a vessel for creativity itself to flow through is similar to what flows through when you write poetry. And hopefully that safety helped in you feeling safe in your body to heal and heal.
Yeah, I think that the body is, when we talk about intuition, for example, and getting in touch with intuition, intuition speaks through the body. It doesn't speak through the mind. Your intuition is felt in the body. And so in so many ways, God speaks through the body. And yet, I'm a hyper analytical person. And as someone who was shut down in my physical body, I also retreated into my mind so much and avoided being in my body. And therefore, if it didn't make sense logically, don't talk to me about it. If you couldn't prove it with science, I want nothing to do with it. All of those ways of being. And I really deeply relate to that. And I think most of the planet falls into that category, at least the Western cultures. And creativity for me is the way in which we merge those two.
Merge what, too?
The mind and the heart, the mind and the body, the masculine and feminine aspects of ourselves, because there's a major misconception around art and being an artist, which is that the idea of being an artist is about freedom. And this is a major misconception because everyone's, as an artist, especially in social media world, the idea of having to cater to an algorithm or put captions on things or whatever, it's just, that's not what I want because I'm an artist. I need to be able to just purely express, et cetera, et cetera. But the actual reality is that to be an artist means you need limitations. You need a canvas.
And confines.
You need the canvas. And what size is the canvas? That's a limitation. But no, the artist doesn't get pissed at the canvas because it's too small or too big. It's like, no, you've given me the space for which I can pour my infinite creativity into. And
it's a masculine container.
There's a masculine container.
There's still a wall.
Exactly. And we need that. We need that as artists. And because it's a fractal of reality itself, because space-time is the canvas of this reality. And so infinite creativity pours into this space-time. And so the containers need it. And I think that creativity for me has, I've deepened into the study and exploration of creativity as a modality for growth. And it's deeply spiritual and esoteric and also healing at the same time.
You can really feel it in your poetry. Like you can feel the creative intelligence, the infinite source, but flowing through. Okay, well, this poem has a subject. You can't just write amazing lines about everything and anything. Like it's we're gonna funnel this into one topic, into one subject. So we're here at Mind Valley University, and I saw you do a poem the other day called Heaven. And it was such an amazingly divinely orchestrated day because you were first, and then our friend Jade Shaw was next, and I was last. And you were talking about heaven. My whole thing was called heaven, bringing the frequency of heaven to earth.
I didn't know that.
And Jade was, like warming people up through dance and through movement and getting people into their bodies through movement. So I just thought like nature was like really helping us out, and there was like a divine orchestration that was much bigger than ours. So for me, this is very much baked into my work. Like, how can we bring the frequency of heaven to earth right here, right now, through our bodies? I believe that heaven is a vibration, not a destination. And that vibration is available to us moment over moment through the thoughts that we think, through the ways we move our body, through using creativity as a vessel. So I'm wondering if you would do us the outrageous honor of sharing your poem Heaven with us.
Absolutely. Happy to. This poem is called Heaven. And by everyone listening, to take a nice deep inhale. Exhale. The most impactful thing you can do for the world is learn how to love life. All of life. Show people that being happy doesn't mean turning a blind eye to the pain and the sadness and the suffering that happens here. Show them that choosing love doesn't mean ignoring fear. It just means being willing to feel. Because those brave souls will always heal as long as they maintain the courage to feel. Because the fear of feeling is really at the root of every fear, which creates a fear of living because feeling's why we're here. So you can fight the fact that feelings past have felt so freaking hard, but it's the very fact that you have felt all that feels like the part we should celebrate. Investigate. Learn to navigate with ease. Your emotions are the gift God gives you every time you breathe. Energy in motion with the strength to bring a king down to his knees, and yet contained within the emotion is the key to set you free. Yes, contained within emotion is the gift of what being human is, a chance to feel all of life, from deep sorrow to deep bliss. And you might wish the two would split, but the twist is that they'll always coexist because even the heartbreak you hate today had the way caved by a lover's kiss. So you can write your list of how life's a bitch, but don't forget the asterisk, because for all the times you went through shit, it fertilized a lot of gifts. But if you only focus on what you lack, you can't appreciate what you got. But with gratitude for what you have, you can see that it's a light. And that is the difference between abundance and scarcity. It's not about what you have, it's about what you see. So the next time you forget how blessed you be, take a moment and focus on the next breath you breathe. The next time you forget how blessed you be, take a moment and focus on the next breath you breathe. And notice you're right here with me. A miracle, a great mystery. Out of hundreds of trillions of stars and hundreds of billions of galaxies, somehow, someway, you're here today with me, and we all breathe. On a spinning spear of chemicals spiraling through the universe. You were once one of 200 million sperm. You just happened to get there first. So how could you ever say you're cursed? You've been blessed since before your birth, and you might not think you have it best, but it could definitely be worse. And if you don't believe that yet, go tell the deaf what you just heard. If you don't like what you see, go tell the blind how much it hurts. On your hardest day, when you really want to walk away, go tell the paraplegic how it's unfair. Share how you want to run from all your problems while he's pushed everywhere in a chair. And I'm not saying that life is fair or that it's easy. We all go through a lot. But as you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, don't lose gratitude for the fact that you walk. Celebrate the fact that you can dance and sing, embrace the abundance in the very act of you talk. Because when you can spot abundance in the simplest things, that's when more abundance unlocks. The simplest things. Taste and touch, breath and smell. Did you know there are people with something called a nose mute, which means their sense of smell is completely lost? So while they literally can't smell the roses, do you want to complain you don't have the time to stop? Because this life is the only one that you've got, and there are people who would trade places with you without a second thought. So no matter how many tears, heartbreaks, or bad days you pay, the cemetery is full of souls that know living is worth the cost. Don't wait till it's too late to learn that lesson. Living is worth the cost. But make no mistake, being alive is not the same thing as living. Just like throwing something away is not the same thing as giving. And so if you haven't yet found your love of life, I suggest you keep on digging and allow yourself to feel your way through all the hurt and all the rage. And as you feel, allow yourself to finally turn a page. That's how we heal. And it might hurt like hell, but you'll have shown us we'll be okay to feel it all and still love life. That's heaven. And you'll have helped pave the way. That's heaven. Can you feel it? Heaven is here today.
So let the profundity of that soak in. There's a beautiful word in Hebrew called Selah, where is the sacred haunts. Where you take the sacred pause and let the profundity of the text soak in. That was such a beautiful concentration of magic. And such an outrageous encapsulation of the paradox of the human experience. Just give us a minute to let that soak in. So I imagine you perform that poem a lot of times. And this time for both of us, there's a lot of emotion that came up and paired. I'm curious, like what it tapped in you, what it touched in you, what's awakening in you, in your body and your feelings right now.
That was almost hard for me to get through, actually. We talked off air about both of us kind of going through our own deep personal heartbreaks in our own way. And, for most of my life, I didn't love my life. For most of my life, I didn't want to be here.
Like alive in your body.
Yeah. And that repressed memory of sexual abuse was lying dormant, making me feel like I was a stranger in my own body, feeling like something's off. I don't know what it is, but I know something's off. And so that was such a program that ran in me for so long that sometimes when I go through something really painful and I'm in that period, I can feel those little gremlins from back then that I'm like, see, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be like this. And he told you, like, you're never going to escape it. And life is pain. You're going to hurt forever. Like this kind of, these little insidious sort of thoughts. And so when I was saying the poem right now, I was just tapping into the part of me that is working really hard to embody what I'm saying in that poem right now. And I think that it's when life is hard and things are not working out that we are setting the baseline for who we are and what life is. And like rock climbing, you nail in one of those anchors and then you can't go below that anymore. And I think when life is hard, that's when we anchor our new baseline. And when everything's amazing, I'm meditating, I'm eating well, and I'm exercising. And then suddenly you go through a breakup and you're drinking, you're smoking weed, you're Netflixing, surely you don't do any of your exercises, whatever. You get to see where your actual baseline truly is. And so that poem for me was just a reminder of the internal, I was feeling the internal work that I'm doing day to day to make sure my baseline is where I want it to be when it can feel really hard.
And how does creativity show up for you? Because, I think this is a fascinating topic that we're diving into. Why is everyone using creativity as a tool for healing, as a tool for personal development? And I don't think that most people think of it that way. They think of it as like a cute side hobby, or like, oh, it's like finger painting, or it's frivolous, or it's not going to make me money necessarily. So why would I waste my time with creativity? Or I need to do therapy, or I need to go to medicine ceremony. But I don't think that most people really view creativity as a healing modality, as a way to glow oneself. So right now, when you're in this transformation, when you're feeling these big feelings of pain or heartbreak, how are you using creativity to heal or develop yourself?
Well, I think that to really understand what you just mentioned and my perspective on creativity as a personal development tool, need to have we have to have a shared reality around definitionally what are we talking about when we say creativity.
Yeah.
Creativity is the process of putting together patterns that you never put together.
Ooh, say that one more time.
Creativity is the process of putting together patterns you've never put together before.
Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah. As a poet, I'm just putting together patterns of words that I never put together before. Painters are just putting together patterns of shapes and colors they've never put together. Dance, movements you've never put together before. Musicians, sounds that you've never put together before. And so personal development is the process of putting together patterns that you've never put together before based off of emotions and experiences. You're connecting patterns of why you feel a certain way, when you felt that previously, and the experiences that may have triggered those things. But it's still just patterning and making and recognizing, which is also synonymous to our awareness, our consciousness, which our consciousness, our awareness is the sum total of the patterns in me that we can make. And so creativity as a skill of pattern making means that every poem I write has now made me much more capable of spotting additional patterns in my life. And the more patterns I can see in my life, the more possibilities I have for what I can create. And so it's moving from what was unconscious into conscious. And that is a creative act. And people don't think of personal development as a creative act. But as you said on my podcast, which is you are creating yourself. And there is no more creative acts when you're talking about your manifestation practice in the morning. You are creating your day. You are creating your life. And so why wouldn't something like poetry writing be a fractal hologram of what we're doing in life as we create, as we are made in the image of creator. We are a part of creation. We are here to create. And so when you have that viewpoint on creativity, suddenly you recognize that creativity is not a hobby. Creativity is not a like something that should be cut out of schools. Creativity is the actual process by which we evolve ourselves personally and spiritually. It's how consciousness actually evolves on this planet. And so once we can be in a shared reality around that, we go, okay, great. Well, now let's look at it from a personal development standpoint, from healing. Let's say I was molested when I was 5. Awesome. There's a story now around that. There's a thing that it means. Well, if I decide I'm going to write a poem about that, what I'm now doing is I am saying intentionally, I am going to create new patterns in my neurology about how I view that event. And just by doing it one time, if I have one other story about how I view that event, I've now weakened the hold of the first story. And if I do it again, and then I do it as a dance and I try and dance it out, and then I do it as a song, and then I do it at blah, 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 I've now created so many different facets by which I can view that event. And so the story that unconsciously ran my life about how that was and what that meant is now completely different. And so there's so many more ways. Those are just two kind of frames that I want to give around why it's so important, but this is a deep field of study for me.
You can feel the depth of thought and care and time you've put on this. So many things you just brought up. I want to underline a few. Is it one? I think a lot of people do understand that creativity or whatever it is that you're creating can be a vessel for your life. Like I'm pouring my life experience into my painting, into my poem, into my song. But I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that the poem can then become a fractal for how you are viewing your life. That the song can change the lens of perception through which you are seeing your life. It feels really important and like a massive upgrade, and that people could reprioritize creativity with that one fact. Also, the thing that struck me is that not only is the act of creativity changing the story, right? I had a story about the molestation, I had a story about the breakup, I had a story about the company getting, closing down. So that if you're creating some piece of art, it's going to change the story about it. But also the very fact that you are creating out of destruction will make the destruction feel less scary, right? Because destruction feels like death. But if we can transmute that into creativity, or you can transmute it with creativity, then by the very act of doing that, it becomes fertilization. It becomes fuel for the creative act, which changes our somatic relationship with the pain. Right? Like, oh, this pain is fueling my creativity. It doesn't necessarily, creativity does not have to be fueled by pain, but when that inevitable pain comes, I can use it to fuel my creativity. And then I could get changes our relationship to have the bravery to feel, which is what you mentioned in the poem, right? That it's the fear of the feeling that divorces us from the full human experience. But if we can feel it fully, this is part of being alive that actually makes the human experience not only more rich, but even worth living.
Well, I 100% agree. And also there's no one creates art intentionally, like with the intention of it being ugly. Even someone who is like trying to make something ugly is trying to show the beauty in the ugly. You know what I mean? So what we're doing when we create art is we're taking something and turning it into beauty. And when you can do that with some of the most painful human experiences that you've been through in your life, the frame of reference in your mind of, and when I say beauty, it doesn't even need to be like, oh, I'm taking this molestation and I'm writing a poem about how it wound up being the greatest gift. No, I'm talking about I can make it raw, painful, just how angry I am, that blah, 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 blah. But it's still inherently has beauty in it, right? And so I think artists see the layer of beauty that exists in reality that's available to everyone and anyone at any point in time if they just put on the artist lens. And that's an incredibly important role in the world, especially right now, because that layer of beauty is here. When I move through the world and people say to me, I speak very poetically, or yes, because why not? You know what I'm saying? Why not? Why not hear the line that you just said and hear the poetry in that line? Why not like see the way that the light enters the room on your lover's face as being just absolutely metaphoric?
Because if you're going to paint it,
Yeah, why not allow yourself to bob your head to the jackhammer? That's you know what I'm saying?
Don't worry on that one.
I know.
Till they start reframing that, those sirens.
Like we could get what I mean. Like there's so many artists that New York City was a hub for it because there's so much input. And if you have the artist mindset, it's all fire for art. And I think that the crazy thing is it's all available. I'm seeing a different dimension of reality, but it's available to everyone. It just requires an inner shift to start to see it. And I think that that's just another way that art and creativity is so important and impactful, because it is the way in which you recognize that anything and everything you experience can be beautiful if you shift your lens.
So you and I had the amazing privilege of getting to travel to Egypt together in December with Robert Everett Grant, and we got to spend the night in King's Chamber at the Great Pyramid. It was one of the most beautiful, profound, healing temple-like experiences I've ever had. Which we can come back to the Egypt story. And you did a poem in one of the pairs, which was outrageous and a real highlight. But there's a woman on the trip named Hella who is a champ. And I had her on the podcast. At the end, I said, would you be willing to, channel for us? And she said, yes, but I don't know who's going to come through. So if you're okay with that, and it's like, yeah, sure. So, she tweets a minute, she drops in, and then this non-human entity comes. So it's like, oh my gosh, interviewing a non-human. This is a new experience. And it was Metatron that came in. So Metatron is, here's Metatron's cube, which is all the shapes inside Pond Sheep. And Metatron is a fractal of expression, but also known as like an ascended archangel, like a human who ascended into this archangel. And so the main message of Metatron to the podcast listeners was see beauty, spread beauty. See beauty, spread beauty, see beauty, spread beauty. And I was like, okay, sounds nice. Sounds quaint, even. Sounds simple. Like, how the fuck do you expect me to see beauty in what's happening in the crumbling of democracy and capitalism in America right now? Or I guess you could say that the Western civilization, at this empire, as we have known it. And the message was like, pull the lens back. Like every stroke of paint on the canvas is necessary to make the painting. The dark shows the light shows the dark, and you haven't seen the whole painting yet. And your job is to see the beauty and to spread beauty. And it feels very akin to what they're saying right now, that no matter how much pain in the abuse that happened, like there is a pattern, a new pattern through which you can see this, that then impacts the way that you are living your future. And I really believe that the lens through which you see your past has the ability to change your past, which up-levels your state of consciousness in the now. And then as you raise your state of consciousness in the now, it changes your state of consciousness in the future. And over time, this can become like an infinity loop. And you can have this huge surge in who you are and how you move through the world. But it seems like it's coming back to this one simple but profound truth, that you have the opportunity to create art in the midst of every reality, even in the face of abuse or trauma.
I think we're overcomplicating the see beauty, spread beauty. How do you see the beauty? Again, you don't have to sugarcoat anything. My poem doesn't have to be love and light. My poem can be about the hurt. The act of creating it is the ability, is forcing me to see the beauty in it. And so when you make the painting about this about a human crime that's been committed or suffering or whatever, it again, the act of doing that is forcing you to see beauty, or at least be the one who's transmuting it so that others can see the beauty in it.
Yes.
And with Gaza is a really interesting example, because I released a poem that was still in progress, but I just recorded it and released it around what was happening in Gaza. And I took my perspective on it was, we don't have to condone it at all. We don't have to say this is okay. And at the same time, let's not forget that we are one human family here. And that there are, as depending, like there are two perspectives on this singing thing. There's a lot more, but like there's two sides, and I have friends on both with like both perspectives, and there are lies on both sides, and there is propaganda and misinformation on both sides, and there's just like so much happening. Can we remember that we are a human family here, and that we don't win if we just keep creating these sides? And I got destroyed, right? I got destroyed because
Meaning that people had angry comments.
super angry. I lost thousands of followers over this. And I find it so interesting because the world is so upside down right now in so many ways, where now the statement, we are one human family, we are all connected, can we remember that, becomes a spiritual bypass. And suddenly we're going, wait a second. So now I'm spiritually bypassing if I espouse the kind of like thing that we've been all working towards. And it's similar, I think, about Republicans and Democrats and how they've almost flipped in terms of their stances on things like my body, my choice versus vaccines versus, like, there's just so much. And everything is flipping inside out and upside down, and systems are collapsing. And I think that why I'm bringing that up is because when you talked about how do I see the beauty in it, creating art, again, definitionally, art for me is the tangible expression of creative energy. And creative energy is the purest expression of your soul. It is the unique frequency that moves through you, that is unique to you, that has never been here before and you'll never be here again. And to express that into art means that you are tangibly, you're putting your soul on display tangibly somewhere. And that's an incredibly vulnerable thing to do. It's an incredibly scary thing to do. And yet, it's so necessary right now because our souls know. Our souls know.
What do they know?
Our souls know what we need. I think the guidance of our souls is needed now more than ever. I think that we've gotten as a society, gotten very disconnected from the whispers of the soul and gotten very heady. And as a result, have also gotten very disconnected from nature,
From our bodies.
and all of that. And so I think that the ability to hear our souls and listen to our soul's guidance comes through when we allow ourselves to create art, the way we were talking about allowing ourselves to dance, really dance. When's the last time you allowed yourself to really create a piece of art? Really? Not many people have that in their lives.
No, I mean, you say that art is a tangible expression of your soul, or
Creative energy tangibly expressed is art, and creative energy is the purest expression of your soul.
So when you say that, it takes off any idea of like, oh, I have to be a good painter or I have to be a good sculptor. That the whole point is to give a tangible expression of my unique soul frequency. And then it's like, who cares? It's a watercolor. It's good. Who cares? It's a poem. It's good. It's never existed before. It'll never exist again because no one has this unique combination of past and genealogy and life experiences that is the unique cocktail of Emily Fletcher. So it feels very liberating. Not to be good at it. It is an expression of my unique soul signature. And also I want to go back to what you just said about the expression of the feelings becomes healing. And I think that so much of I think that the pain and the reason why people think the feeling our feelings is hard is not because the feeling of the feelings, but rather the repression of the feelings. It's when we stop the creative act, when we stop the expression of the feelings, that creates so much angst and pain. And what I found in my work as of late is I've been giving people permission to feel their feelings. And so even the deepest, most terrifying rage can be expressed in a way that is beautiful when you put on a song and you do it in a room full of people doing it together. Even the tears that we've been told not to cry since infancy can become an act of art. You have a safe container where everyone is crying together. And then in the expression of the emotion, this transmutation happens where you turn lead into gold, you turn pain into beauty. And I think that's why just basically the peacock is my power animal, because peacocks eat venomous snakes and then transmute it into the beauty that is their feathers. Because this has been my life's work, is giving people the tools to take stress and turn it into bliss, and now take trauma and turn it into fuel, or fear and turn it into fuel for their dreams. And so it feels like this, through the act of creativity, there is like a real alchemical force and a real transmutational force that happens. So I know that you coach as well, right? So you're not only a poet, you also are a coach and you help people with entrepreneurship. How do you take people who think that they can't create, who have a story that I'm not creative, and give them the tools to start creating?
Well, the starting point for me is by reframing what creativity is and the reason you do it. Because I think most of the reasons why people don't create is because they have a misunderstanding of what creativity actually is. And they go, well, I'm not creative. Okay, well, why? oh, I don't paint, or I'm not playing music, or these very traditional, like, this is what.
You know, like they conflate creativity with art. Is that right?
And a certain type of artistry. But what I tell people all the time is how you dress can be a form of artistry. How you make a meal for your family can be a form of artistry. Just like the mindset of how am I plating the food? When you go to a really fancy restaurant, they're plating the food in a very particular way, and it does impact the experience. So do we do that, or do we just like scoop things onto a plate for the efficiency of just getting it out there? Or do you turn your Sunday morning pancakes into Mickey Mouse shapes with blueberry eyes, right? The artistry can be in very subtle and small ways. And I think that that's a big part of why I wear, pretty much on stage, I always wear a hat, a custom hat, because for me, it's a way of embodying the artist, because I go, I'm going to express, and I have a few different hats depending on the mood, or it's like putting on my superhero cape or my, right? It's this thing. And so that understanding that you can be a creative in a lot of really small, seemingly overlooked ways, is a starting point to get permission. And then the second one is to remove the attachment to the results. Because if you are, I'll give you an example. When I tried to learn the guitar when I was in high school, I tried to learn songs. I tried to learn songs that I loved, and they never sounded as good, right? And I couldn't sing and all of this. And so I hated it, because every time I learned a song, I would still just go, it's just not as good as the original. So
Taste exceeded our tastes, which it always does as a beginner.
really. And then, but I learned some songs, and then I didn't pick up a guitar for like 8 years, 9 years. And then I picked up a guitar again after a breakup, and I was traveling all the time, and I was traveling with a friend who had a guitar. And so at night, when he got tired of playing, he's like, hey, can you play? I'm just not. And I knew the basic chords. That's all I remembered. I'd forgotten every song. And instead of learning songs, I just allowed myself to play what felt good and what sounded good, starting with the basic chords that I remember. And I'm a pretty decent guitar player now, and I still know very few songs. And it completely changed the experience, because again, I started by trying to achieve a result, and therefore, because it was based off of the result, I was able to evaluate whether I was succeeding or failing. But when it just became about the process, it just became about playing. You described watercolor painting, and for you had no attachment to the result at all. And as a result to that, you enjoyed the process of painting and got pretty good at it. That's available to everyone. And removing the result and saying the process is the point, not the result. The actual process itself is the point, is the other way that I think I encourage people and influence people to get into their creative expression.
So how do you then translate that into entrepreneurship? Because I know you coach on both creativity and entrepreneurship. And I mean, we were just talking on your podcast, like the times that I had the best success, financial success in my career. So I was like, oh, I just want to do this thing. This thing is lighting me up. I'm going to create a mastermind about it. Sold out in 2 weeks. Oh, I just love meditation. I want to share with as many people as possible. I want to start the world's first online meditation training. Blows up. But when I go like, okay, we want to hit this many numbers. This is our goal. You know, we need to do this is percent of conversions. This, you know, when I get into the like math of it, is when I can feel like the some of the joy of the process can go away for me. And yet it is necessary. I have 10 employees. I pay their salaries. They have children. Like there is just a reality to like, oh, we need to do X amount of numbers this month.
Yeah.
And so how do you keep that process, creative channel open when it becomes your job?
It's been a tricky journey for sure. And I would say that the merging of my inner artist and inner entrepreneur has been, what I mentioned before, a major conflict, because I thought that they were in opposition. I felt like structure somehow removed the purity of the art. And I was very protective of the art because the art saved my life. When I was so emotionally shut down, had the repressed memory abuse, uh, my father is a very stoic Asian man, and when I was very young, told me not to cry like a little girl, and I just completely shut down my emotions. And art became the pressure release valve. Art became the place where it was actually okay to cry when I was an actor. Not just that, there was a feedback loop that the more deeply I felt, the better I was. And so it just created this outlet for my emotional experience. And that uh, was my entry point into realizing the importance and every because it saved my life, I was so attached to the purity of the art for art's sake, and it caused me to reject any sort of structure, algorithm,
Commodification.
exactly. And then and sales started to, I felt were manipulative. So a sales funnel was about how do I trick you or convince you to buy this thing? Where what I realized, I had a poem go viral in 2018. It's called "You Are Who You've Been Looking For." It's the most viral. It's the most viewed, most viral poetry performance in history. So it's been viewed over 250 million times, and I got 40 million views in 48 hours. I mean, it went super viral, and I got thousands of messages in the first week, and a lot of those messages were from people asking for help. Help me. I don't know how to love myself. Poems about self-love. I don't know how to love myself. I'm thinking about killing myself. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? And I couldn't because I hadn't developed a funnel. I had no way of helping thousands of people.
We got a phone with every single person and be like, hey, here's the process.
And so what I realized at that time is that my aversion to entrepreneurship and funnels and algorithms prevented me from giving the value to people. And that was really more important than anything to me. That's what I wanted to do, was help people who needed it. And so in that moment, I had this major shift where business wasn't about making money. Business was about providing value. And money is the byproduct of the value you provide. Just same way, yes, businesses need to make money the same way that your heart needs to beat, but your life is not about beating your heart. Your life is about, if I stay healthy, my heart will keep beating. And as a business, if I keep providing value, meaning I'm a healthy business, I'll keep making money.
But if you just think about, oh, I need to beat my heart, 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 you don't have much bandwidth left for living or creating value. It's just all you're thinking about is money in the business. You're not available for the actual value that you are providing.
You're focusing on you need to zoom out or zoom in, depending on how you look at it. And so those shifts in my consciousness, which were in my inner artist, the like aversion my artist had to business needed to shift. And once that happened, now I was able to see, okay, I want to build out a funnel to provide value so that when people hear my art, when people see my message, they have the ability to come in and get the help that they want. One. And two, I actually need the structure as an artist. I thought, but I didn't, but I actually need the structure as an artist. How do I now see entrepreneurship as the container for my creative energy?
I love this idea of, again, like masculine and feminine. The masculine is the container for the feminine to flow through. I mean, without the container, without the rules of an improv game, it's just chaos.
And so when in my mastermind, the artistic entrepreneur, in that program, two of the modules are around content. And so crafting signature content, that is a necessary part of a funnel. It is structured. You need to create content in this online world right now. And that's leaves so much room for creativity. Like, that's what I do anyway. As an artist and a filmmaker and an actor, like, creating content is what I love to do. Why, the moment I think I have to for the funnel, do I suddenly contract and go, I can't do this or whatever? Why does the creativity have to leave? The fact that you have to create some content does not have to mean that the creativity can't be a part of it.
Yeah. Thank you for naming that because I'm realizing like I feel it when I have on my calendar, like, oh, I have 3 hours of shooting social media content. There is a contraction inside of me. Like, oh, like, wait a minute. I'm like, you're an actor, you're a singer, you're a dancer, you're a theater producer, you are a teacher. Like you can do all of those things inside of this. Like, why have you not created the conditions for which you enjoy that creative process? Why are we not honoring that creative process? And I think it's because it is a judgment.
And also because it can get very results focused.
Yeah.
So I need to record a certain amount of reels that are promoting this thing so that we can sell this thing. It becomes very results oriented. But I think you and I both have said on my podcast and this one here that the greatest successes have come from the things that are just pure inspiration in that moment. But what I also recognize is that being in the thought process of how to market something, how to sell something, the pain points of your audience, that stuff is sort of like acting preparation in some ways. It's like character development, character research, so that when I speak about it right now, I have no talking points. There's nothing about that. But I'm so confident in my incubator program because I did the months of really sitting with like, what does my audience need? What was my struggle when I was trying to build a business back in the day and I had no idea what I was doing? What did I learn along the way? Where do I still encounter resistance? And that research, that development of understanding now allows me to be embodied in the message that I'm delivering. And that's where creativity can really come in. So as an example, if you don't know how to play the guitar, if you don't know any chords, it's very hard to be creative on it. You know, if you are awkward in your movements and dance and whatever, it's hard to be creative in it. You need the structure first. But when you get to a certain level of competency with your chords on a guitar, for example, suddenly you can be fully creative. You can get just lost in it. As a dancer, you can get lost in it. And similarly, as an entrepreneur, first do the research. Understand your target avatar, understand all of these things so well that you could just let it go. And now it's a fully creative act.
I really love that. That's a beautiful translation. Like the same ingredients that create beautiful art are the same ingredients that can create beautiful entrepreneurship. Beautiful. So why? It's kind of the name of the podcast. Why isn't everyone doing this? Why isn't everyone using creativity for personal development? What do you think is the block for that?
I think that society has, due to I actually think it could be a conspiracy theory. Well, if you want to go that route,
Go.
I think that as I said at the beginning of this podcast, creativity is the process by which we expand our consciousness. It is a creative process. Therefore, the micro containers of writing a poem are expanding consciousness individually and therefore collectively. Sharing that out into the world is expanding consciousness. There are nefarious characters in this world that don't desire to see consciousness expand.
Human or otherwise?
Depends. It depends. Whether we go reptilian, Illuminati, one world, whatever, or it's just people who their state of consciousness has them afraid of change, however we want to look at it. What needs to happen, because what's happening right now is the expansion of consciousness is outpacing the systems that have previously held it. And so they're all crumbling. Our medical system, education system, political system, all of that stuff. It's all crumbling around us because consciousness has outpaced it. Those systems can't hold consciousness now. And so what's happening is that I think there's an attempt to slow down the expansion of consciousness by some people who just would like to see that slow down so that either new systems can be put into place to keep control. And the best way to do that, if you understand how we expand consciousness, it's creative act. Hey, let's remove all arts and creativity classes from schools. Let's really enforce, or let's really promote being on social media like TikTok and these things to our kids, where we are now disconnecting them from creativity. I read a really amazing poster or whatever that was talking about. We are robbing our children of boredom.
Yes.
And boredom is the thing that gets someone to pick up the guitar.
Yeah, creativity lives on the other side of boredom.
Boredom is the thing that gets someone to make a fort out of cardboard boxes. But when all they have to do is turn the iPad on or the thing, they're not doing the pattern making thing and that anymore. Well, we are cutting off innovation. We are cutting off the expansion of consciousness, and we're doing it at the early stages of development where they won't even know that that's a thing.
They won't even develop it to forget it.
Exactly. They were just never
Trap consumerism.
And so whether that's conspiracy theory or not, I think that as humans, we get to be very aware that our creativity is sacred. Our creativity is a technology. No matter how shut down people are to not wanting to feel certain edges of the emotional experience, they want to feel pain or whatever. No matter how shut off you are, you go into a movie theater because of how you think that movie's gonna make you feel. You put on music because of how that music makes you feel. And so art bypasses the logical defense mechanisms of the human mind and hits people in their emotional body. And true catalytic change happens in the emotional one. There has to be an emotional component because of how it activates the physiology in our brain, rewrites the circuitry at a primal limbic level. Well, that process, art is the technology for me you've given me permission to make you feel the moment you say, "Can I hear a poem?" And so I don't think people are doing it because society is being set up in a way where there's no education around the importance of it. It's actually being consciously and unconsciously said that's not important. And then systems are set up to take advantage of artists and really leech from artists in a way where the record labels and the Spotify's and whatever, they're getting super wealthy while the actual artists are still shelving to make ends meet. So there's an undervaluing of the role of the artist. And
I would add to that like a societal shaming even of feeling our feelings at all, which is one of the points of art, right? It's like, here's where I'm being rewarded for feeling my feelings, but in the rest of the world, in the real world, that is not okay.
And so how many people have been told that pursuing an artistic career is not realistic?
Frivolous.
Or you're gonna be broke, or the starving artist, or it's just a hobby. What does that even mean exactly? Right? And so I think that all of that contributes to why people see art and creativity as a luxury or something to do as a hobby, as opposed to the fundamental reason you're here. And my teachings, what I speak to, what I teach in my containers, all of it, my podcast, The Creative Path, is trying my best to help people reconstruct their definitions and understanding of what creativity and creative energy actually is. And if they can do that, they will naturally want to create.
So let's say someone's listening to this and they identify as someone who's like, I get that it's important. Or like, now that I'm listening to this, I'm like, okay, I want to create. Like, I want to use creativity as a path of personal development and growth. Like, what would be one action they could take to reprioritize it, or something they could do to be like, you know what, today I'm going to create something? How do you get people started?
Well, you can do any modality, so painting, music, singing, poetry, whatever it is, dance. I'm a poet and an actor, but poetry for me is the easiest one. Everyone knows how to write and speaks the language, and so what I recommend as an exercise is start by just journaling about something that's on your heart right now. Just journal about it. Free write. Set a timer, even 5 minutes, and write about the thing right now that feels hard in your life. And then after that, go through and highlight, circle, underline, star, anything in there that brings up emotion, you reread it. And now take that, what you just did, as a primer and say, now I'm going to try and write a poem from that. You have lines that brought up emotion in you. Good. Those could be lines in the poem, or they could be a version of it. Or you could just connect to that line and say, I don't know if I shared this with you the other night when we were talking, but I recently went through a shibari ceremony, and a lot of my ceremonies, I receive a single line.
And just so that folks know, shibari is like an ancient, I don't know if it's ancient, but in the Japanese art form of rope tying, like playing with dynamics of submission and dominance. And oftentimes, if you're being tied, it can put you into a real like submissive state, just a flow state, dominant state, receptive state.
And so it's a lot of people associated with like kink and BDSM, but for me, it's how often as a man do I put myself in a state where I'm completely helpless? That's very rare, very, very rare. And being in that state physiologically bring up things that wouldn't come up in any other state. Now, in that ceremony, I had this line come through in relation to me calling in my beloved, which is, loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done. And that encapsulates this feeling for me of, it's like breathing. I love you, and you are able to receive that. You believe that. You don't fight against that, and you reward that in a way that makes me want to just keep loving you even more. And that's going to become a poem. That's the next, that line that one line has so much in it for me that it's going to be a poem that I write. And so similarly, what that exercise that I just talked about, you free write, and then you circle the things. There's a line. One of those lines could be a whole poem.
Yeah.
Or you could use all of them or whatever, but that would be the starting point. And I think that's it's free. You can do it anytime. You just have to be willing to put aside the time to do it, and be willing to be rusty. Be willing to, like, it can feel hard. Every time I sit down to write a poem, every single time I think to myself, I can't do this. I seriously, I'm not even kidding. Every single time I sit down, I go, I suck. I'm just not good at this. And that first 10%, 20% of the process sucks every time.
Thank you for naming that. The other day, as we were about to go on stage the night before, just crying myself to sleep. My grandma, I'm a big death portal in life, but I was just like, what do I have to share? I have nothing to offer. I have nothing to say. This is going to be it. This is the end of my career. I'm meant to totally shit the bed. Like, this is it. It's been a good run, but I'm over. This will be the last time I ever might be on stage. And just sharing that, because like if that voice is preventing someone from creating, like, just know that you and I have created like 10-year plus multiple 7-figure careers, all of this, and still that voice is very, very loud. So it's not about getting rid of that voice. It's like, how do we dance with that thing?
100%. I 100% agree with that. And ultimately, learning to dance with your demons is the way in which you realize they're angels.
Ooh, say that again.
I've never said that before, but that's like a poem right there. Yeah, like learning to dance with your demons is how you see that they're angels.
Please turn that into a poem. It's so good. And what I love about this exercise, right? Set Tetris hammer, 5 minutes, journal something that is going on in your life, something that hurts, something that's changing, and then circling, highlighting that what are these nuggets, what are the things that bring up emotions, and then using those as seeds, right? Because inside of the seed is the intelligence that grows the tree. Inside of that one line could be the intelligence that grows a whole poem or a whole song or a whole dance. And then it's a getting out of the way of letting nature use you as the vessel for whatever wants to come through your unique soul expression that has never been before and will never be again. And because of that, it is worthy of being birthed, not because it's better than Adam's Gone or not because it's a better song than Beyonce, but because no one has the ability to create except for you. And therefore, it is worthy of being a part of this giant human painting that we are all painting together.
Exactly. Well, good summer.
Thanks. Is there anything else you want to share? Anything else you wish that I had asked you? Anything else that is important to transmit as keys or magic that might be needed by the humans listening to this?
I think the only piece that we were talking about there was the fear of feeling. And I think you had mentioned something about it's a fear of the suppression. And
Well, that the suppression of the feeling creates more pain than the actual feeling of it.
right. And so why do we suppress, right? And I think that one of the biggest reasons, maybe the reason, is because we think we can't actually handle
You think we can't handle the feeling, the intensity of
Yeah.
the emotion?
that. If I open this door,
Yeah.
it will overtake me. It'll be too much.
I'll break down. I'll break.
Everything will crumble. I will not be able to come back. I'll kill myself. I'll like whatever it is, that opening this door is not safe, and I don't have the tools or the capacity to handle that. And that is the reason why so many people don't open those doors. And what I can say, as someone who has gone through periods of suicidal depression, very dark periods in my life, is that there are certain things that can help with that. And
Help with the fear of feeling.
yeah. And so I get that fear of feeling. And for me, there's 3 C's, I like frameworks, that I think are incredibly important, that changed my life. And because if we're going to talk about and encourage people to feel, I just want to make sure that they have the environment to support them, because there are some things that once you open that door, there's no going back. And one of them is coaching, mentorship from, and that doesn't have to be one-on-one, but like Ziva meditation, like having reference points that give you tools and like mentorship for how. The second C is community. Having people actually in your life that support you, believe in you, can hold space for you, also hold you accountable. Incredibly, incredibly important. And the third C is creativity, for all the reasons we talked about on this. But if you can have these 3 key amplifiers in your life and create an environment that is safe for you to open those doors, I think that's a necessity. It's a big piece. It's a reason why I've been able to do it. And I encourage people to look at those 3 C's and say, do I have those in my life?
This is coaching, community, and creativity.
Direct.
Yeah.
Those build the foundations of a safe container to open the doors of feeling.
Yeah. And I think acknowledging the bigness of that choice, that it is truly something that we have been trained not to do since we came out of the womb. Here you were in infinite connection, floating in the cosmic goo of deep love and oxytocin with your mother. And then comes the separation into fluorescent lights and the metal forceps and the beeping sounds. And it just went from heaven into hell. And you're crying. And the first thing someone does is like shushing you. And so those feelings have been repressed since the instant we came out of the womb. And so knowing that the decision to choose to feel that is not a small decision. It takes an extraordinary amount of bravery. So I think to go into those waters equipped with these three C's sounds really smart and wise, because otherwise, why on earth would you do that to yourself?
Yeah.
And then if once you do it, you're like, oh, I cried for 90 seconds and I feel so much better on the other side. I punched the pillow for 2 minutes and wow, I feel space on the other side.
And think about just you and I, this is the first day that we've really dropped in together, right? And yet the other night in a 10-minute conversation, we were community for each other. It was, hey, here's what's going on in my heart right now, and vice versa. And that we're blessed. And I think sometimes for me, I can take for granted that my extended community of someone that I had never like gone to lunch with or anything is still like full of people that I feel comfortable enough to just open up to in a moment. Some people don't even have one of those people in their lives.
Yeah.
And so, ooh,
This is important.
yeah. No, like, ooh, it's your podcast. Go for it.
Wait, I have something to say. the just my assumption is that the reason that you felt safe opening up to me and sharing with me the bigness of what you're feeling is that you knew that I can hold it. You knew that I could handle it, that it wouldn't scare me, it wouldn't overwhelm me, I would try to fix you, I wouldn't try and solve it, that I could just hold space to receive the bigness of the transition and vice versa. But if I had not done the work on myself, if I had not chosen to engage in meditation, in emotional alchemy, in these tools that allow me to feel and hold space for myself, that I do not have the capacity to hold space and feel with you in your time of pain. So I just want to name that it might feel selfish, it might feel self-indulgent, it might feel like you're going to die. But if you can have the bravery to feel your own feelings, which at the end of the day, that's all they want, the feelings just want to be felt. That gives you the gift and the privilege and the luxury of being able to hold space for the people that you love. And they will feel that in their nervous systems. Their nervous systems will feel safe enough to share their pain with you because they know that you can handle it. And then it can become this beautiful, generous gift where you can be community for each other versus like burdening each other or lying and pretending like I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And we're all like drowning in a sea of fine.
I 100% agree. And I think, opening up to the wrong person can lead to trauma.
Yep.
And so absolutely just be selective with those people. And if you haven't yet gotten to the point where you can identify those people and you're not certain, that's where I have 2 coaches right now. Like I hire those people.
Yeah.
Hire those people, join those communities. There's free ones, but get into them. As much as I love that people listen to my podcast and watch my YouTubes and all of those things, like have actual interactions with human beings, even if it's in the online space as a starting point, but like have those real live interactions with people that give you new reference points for what it is to be in a true safe community container.
Yeah. And even if you're in a pod or like I can't quote unquote afford a coach, it's like, can you get a person, a friend? Can we be each other's buddies? Can we be our courage buddies? Can we hold each other accountable? List the goal I'm trying to move towards, or can do up space to hold. And the consent is key as well. Like if you're not sure that the person can hold or they have the capacity right now to hold, ask, hey, do you have space for me to purge right now?
And tell them, please I don't actually want you to offer solutions or anything. I just need to voice this.
Yes.
Like set it up, set the container.
Yeah. Ask for what you want. Yeah. Oh, amen. Adam Roa, you're so amazing. Where can people find you? Where can people dance with you? Where can people learn more?
Yeah, so thank you for having me on the show. It's been great getting to drop in and having you on my podcast, The Creative Path. For those people who want more information, Adam.Roa on Instagram, I am Adam Roa on Facebook, like everywhere that's Adam Roa, ROA. And then my podcast is called The Creative Path with Adam Roa. And then I have adamroa.com. And I have a incubator program called the Artistic Entrepreneur. So this is about building business in a way that is fulfilling and abundant, doing it with your unique creative expression. And so get at me in the DMs or whatever. Let me know what you enjoyed about what was said here. Maybe by the time this comes out, I'll have written my poems. There's 2 of them that emerged on this show.
Amen. Sweet Bens, thank you for joining us today on this episode of Why Isn't Everyone Doing This? As I mentioned, if you enjoyed it, what really means a lot to us, if you want to screenshot it, tag us on Instagram. I'm at Ziva Meditation. He's at Adam.Roa. Let us know what you learned. Share this media as medicine so that if it touched you in some way, if you had an aha, if you learned a new way of feeling your feelings, a new way of using creativity as a tool to develop yourself, and the best way you can help us is to pay it forward, share it with someone else. We create this because we want to get this medicine out into the world. So also, if you want to subscribe, leave a review, all of that stuff really helps as well. I feel so grateful for this outrageously beautiful community. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.